It's the 16th of June 2025. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst's Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the bulletin tonight for the Newsfirst team. I am Jaimal Ratnayaka.
And I am Hashini Pathirana. First up is a look at your headlines for tonight.
Rai Kali Baltasar elected the new mayor of Colombo. Promises to build a city for everyone to live with dignity. Why did the SJB fail to secure power of the Colombo Municipal Council? 6 SJB councillors of the Dabulla Pradeshiya Sabha suspended for failing to support the Podujana Eksat Peramuna's candidate for chairman. IMF lauds Sri Lanka's progress over the past 2 years. Continued fiscal discipline and forward-looking economic governance crucial for future success, emphasizes Dr. Gopinath. Israel-Iran conflict escalates. Discussions for a ceasefire rejected. Strait of Hormuz also affected as warnings emerge of a global oil price hike.
On to your top story tonight. For the first time since 1956, the United National Party or any of its affiliated parties has lost control of the Colombo Municipal Council. This shift occurred with the election of Rai Kali Baltasar of the National People's Power as the new mayor of Colombo during today's vote.
In the secret ballot, she secured 61 votes, while the opposing candidate Sirasa received 54 votes. 2 council members' votes were rejected.
The Colombo Municipal Council convened today to elect the mayor and deputy mayor, with proceedings chaired by local government commissioner for the Western Province, Sarangika Jayasundara. During the session, the National People's Power nominated Rai Kali Baltasar, while the opposition Samagi Jana Balawegaya put forward Riza Zaruk as their candidate. A heated debate soon emerged in the council chamber due to conflicting views from both parties on the method of voting for the mayoral election. The National People's Power called for a secret ballot, while the opposition pushed for an open vote. In response, the local government commissioner stated that a separate vote must be conducted to decide the method of electing the mayor. This announcement sparked another round of intense discussion.
ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ අනුව මම හිතනවා මේ යෝජනා දෙකම තියෙන නිසා මම තීරණය කරනවා අපි මේක රහස්‍ය ඡන්දකින් ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකාව මගින් කරමුයි කියලා. අපි රහස් ඡන්දයක් කොහෙත්ම අපේක්ෂා කරන්නේ මොකද රහස් ඡන්දයක් අපිට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ.
මම නම් රාජ්‍ය භාවය සුරකින්න කැමති නැහැ. ඔබතුමිය ආන්න කාගේ හරි മന്ത്രിවරුන්ගේ රාජ්‍ය භාවය සුරකින්න ඕනද කියලා. අංගල දාන්න ඕනේ අපිට. අපි එලිපිට කියනවා. ඔබතුමිය නිත්‍යානුකූලව රහස් ඡන්දයකට යන්න. බය නැති මිනිස්සු ඕන ඡන්දයකට ඔට්ටු වෙන්න එපයි.
අත උත්තර කාටද ඡන්ද දෙන්න කියලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැසුව මේ රාස්ගේ මෙතන එපා. අපිට ඕනේ 60 දෙනෙක් ලිඛිතව අත්සන් කරලා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ලියවිල්ල පිළිගන්නේ නැද්ද?
ඒක මට පිළිගන්න බෑ මොකද?
අකමැත්තෙන් අත්සන් කරපුවා වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒක නිසා මේක රාජ්‍ය ඡන්දයකටම යන්න ඕනේ. පනදානුව ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නකෝ. ගරු කොමසාරිස්තුමිය ඔය අස්සන් ලේඛනයේට දැන් ඇවිල්ලා අස්සන් කරන්න කියන්නේ ඔය 60 දෙනාට ප්‍රශ්න ඉවරනේ. දැන් අස්සන් ගන්න කියන්නේ ඒක හොඳ ඒක ඉවරනේ.
නම කියනකොට ඔබතුමාලා ඇවිල්ලා ඡන්ද පත්‍රිකාව ඡන්ද ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න.
After more than half an hour of deliberation, both parties agreed that there should not be a separate vote to decide the method of voting for the mayoral election. Eventually, both parties reached a consensus that the mayoral election should proceed via secret ballot.
කාලේ නාස්ති කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒ යන්නේ සීක්‍රට් ඕපන් දෙකලකට වෝට් එක ගන්න. එහෙමනම් අපි සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ ප්‍රමුඛ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය ප්‍රමුඛ පොදු විපක්ෂය අපි යෝජනා කරනවා. කාලය නාස්ති නොකට එකවර නගරාධිපතිවරයා තේරීමට රාජ්‍යන්දයක් අපි යෝජනා කරනවා. ගරු කොමසාරිස්තුමිය රෝල් මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කියපු විදිහට එහෙමනම් අපි කෙලින්ම නගරාධිපති මේ ඡන්දක රාජ්‍යන්දකට යමු. ඉවරයි ඒක.
තේරීම නෙවෙයි ක්‍රමය තෝරා ගැනීම සිදු කරන්න නගරාධිපති සිදු කරන්න.
කොමසාරිස්තුමිය හරි එකඟතාවයකට ආවනේ. දැන් කෙලින්ම නගරාධිපති ධූරය සඳහා රාජ්‍යන්දකට යමු කියලා දෙපාර්ශ්වයෙන්ම එකඟතාවයක් ආවා.
එතකොට යෝජනා දෙකක් තිබුණා. දැන් යෝජනා දෙක නැහැ. එතකොට නගරාධිපති තේරීම රාජ්‍යන්දකට යනවා කියලා සභාව එකමතිකව තීරණය කරනවා. හරිනේ?
හරි. හරි. නගරාධිපති ධූරය සඳහා රාජ්‍යන්දකට යන්න අපි ඒක ස්ථිර කරනවා.
Then the secret ballot was conducted.
මොහොමඩ් තාරුක් මොහොමඩ් රීසා මහතා. පරායි කැලි බල්තසාර් මහත්මිය. නගරාභිවෘද්ධි ධූරයේ සඳහා තේරීමේ රහස්‍ය ඡන්ද ප්‍රතිඵල අනුව ඡන්ද 61ක් ලබාගත් වරායි කැලි බඩ්සාර් මහත්මිය කරු නගරාධිපති ලෙස කොළඹ මහනගර සභාවට තේරී පත් ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
After she assumed the mayor's seat, nominations were called for the deputy position.
පසු තියන්නේ නියෝජ්‍ය නගරාධිපති ධූරයේ සඳහා සභිකයෙකු පත් කර ගැනීම.
මම හේමන්ත කුමාර මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ නම යෝජනා කරනවා.
ඒ යෝජනාව ප්‍රසන්න ලියනාරක වන මම ස්ථිර කරනවා.
මම එය පිළිගන්නවා.
තවත් යෝජනා තියෙනවා නම් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
As no other nominations were presented, Hemantha Kumara was elected unopposed as the deputy mayor.
Roy Kelly Balthasar met her group of councillors after being elected mayor of Colombo. She received a warm welcome.
Not just the National People's Power, but I think this is a historic victory for the people of Colombo as well. Because for years we've been saying that power should belong to the people. Power should be in the hands of the people. Only then we can develop this city, this country. So today we have actually been able to take a big step in that direction. We know that although we were appointed today, our biggest work is ahead of us. Our intention is to create a beautiful city where all the people of Colombo can live with dignity. These are not false promises we made on stages.
Even if they weren't with us at the beginning, opposition groups slowly joined hands with us. So we offer our heartfelt thanks to them in brotherhood. We know that group is a strong group.
Following the vote to elect the new mayor of Colombo, members of the opposition addressed the media outside the council chambers.
Despite securing 54 votes, we were defeated. We extend our congratulations to the newly elected mayor. As a progressive opposition, we will support any initiative that benefits the people and development of Colombo. However, if there are any actions that go against public interest, we will stand firmly and fearlessly against this administration, without hesitation. Once again, I wish the new mayor all the best.
Following the recent local government elections, the Colombo Municipal Council's 117 seats were distributed as follows. National People's Power 48 seats, Samagi Jana Balawegya 29 seats, United National Party 13 seats, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna 5 seats, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress 4 seats. Remaining seats were divided among other political parties and independent groups. In recent days, opposition parties held multiple discussions on forming a coalition to take control of the council. A joint press briefing last Thursday indicated that several parties were prepared to unite and establish a governing body. However, in today's final vote, the National People's Power secured 61 votes, while the opposition received only 54 votes. Votes from 2 council members were rejected. While the Colombo Municipal Council vote was taking place, MP Mujibur Rahman of the Samgi Jana Balawegya, along with a few others, were directing activities from the opposition leader's office in Colombo, as publicised by MP Harshana Rajakaruna on his Facebook account. But this is their reaction after the defeat of their candidate.
අපි දන්නවා මේ පළාත් පාලන ආඥාපනත හා මාර්ග උපදේශක අනුව විශේෂයෙන්ම නගරාධිපති
We know that according to the local government ordinance and guidelines, especially when electing the mayor or chairman, it is clearly stated in those guidelines whether it should be a secret ballot or an open ballot, specifically that it should be an open ballot. Despite this, the local government commissioner decided to come here and go for a secret ballot. What she said first was, I will ask the council whether to go for a secret ballot or an open ballot. After that, she didn't ask the council, and after a while, she said there would be a secret ballot. So we, especially the JVP, have always stood for open ballots in Parliament. They never stood for secret ballots. So, Today, their deal politics was shown to the whole world.
ඡන්ද වලට ඒගොල්ලෝ පෙනී ඉඳලා නැහැ. එතකොට අද ඒගොල්ලෝන්ගේ ඩීල් දේශපාලනය මුළු ලෝකෙටම පෙන්නවා.
Although MP Mujibur Rahman said so, a vote was not taken today to decide how the mayoral election should be held. The decision to hold a direct secret ballot for the mayoral election was made after both parties agreed.
කාලේ නාස්ති කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒ යන්නේ සීක්‍රට් ඕපන් ද කියලා එකට වෝට් ගන්න. එහෙමනම් අපි සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ ප්‍රමුඛ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය ප්‍රමුඛ පොදු විපක්ෂය අපි යෝජනා කරනවා. කාලේ නාස්ති නොකට එකවර නගරාධිපතිවරයා තේරීමට රාජ්‍යන්තයක් අපි යෝජනා කරනවා.
ගරු කොම්සර්තුමා රෝල් මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කියපු විදිහට එහෙමනම් අපි කෙලින්ම නගරාධිපති මේ ඡන්දේ රාජ්‍යන්තයකට යන්න. ඉවරයි ඒක.
Meanwhile, MP Mujibur Rahman himself stated a few days ago that the mayor would be elected by secret ballot.
If you look at the Colombo Municipal Council, the total number of councillors is 117. Out of 117, they need to get 58 or 59, which is half of them. They didn't get 59, so they only got 48. 48 is not the majority. According to this local government election system, the mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council had to be elected by a secret ballot.
Today, the Samagi Jana Balaveke explained the reason for their candidate's defeat.
The Samagi Jana Balaveke, the United National Party, as well as the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana, then the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the National Freedom Front, then the National People's Party, all of them have voted. The Sarva Jana Balaya say they voted, but we do not know where it went.
However, the leader of the Sarvajana Balaya party, Dilith Chaivira, posted on Facebook this morning stating that his party's executive committee had decided to support the candidate presented by the opposition. He also mentioned that they would vote against the National People's Power candidate. Sagala Ratnayaka of the United National Party met with UNP elected members this morning ahead of the Colombo Municipal Council session. In a note shared on social media, he described the moment as the beginning of a new chapter for the city. What is the Sri Lanka Podujana Peruma's position on the appointment of the Colombo mayor?
Let me
be very clear. Every SLPP elected member has taken a clear stance. In every local council, we have consulted our members and allowed them to form administrations based on the will of the people in those areas. We have not held any discussions with individuals. All our decisions are made through formal discussions within the party. Even going forward, we will continue to engage with political parties, not individuals or factions. When making political decisions, we do not believe in secretive or backdoor deals.
Meanwhile, the Samagi Jana Balaveke has suspended the party membership of 6 of its Dambulla Pradesh Sabha members for nominating a candidate in the chairman election.
When the Dambulla Pradesh Sabha convened today to elect its chairman, 3 candidates were nominated. W.M. Tilakaratne representing the National People's Power, Susil Herath from the Samagijana Balavegya and K.P. Somatilaka of the Podujana Eksat Peramuna. According to a letter issued on the 12th June by the SJB General Secretary to the party's Rathput organizer, instructions had been given to support K.P. Somatilaka as the chairman and Susil Herath as the vice chairman. However, this directive was rejected by the local SJB group, who instead nominated their own candidate for the chairman's post. Ultimately, W.M. Tilakaratne of the National People's Power was elected as chairman with a majority vote. In response, the General Secretary of the Samagijana Balavegya announced the immediate suspension of 6 SJB members of the Dambulla Pradesh Sabha for acting in violation of the party's decision. The suspended members are Susil Herath, Anil Indrajit Dasanayaka, Dhananjaya Sampath Karadagolla, Priyanjana Kumara Ratnayaka, Kusuma Kumari and Krishanti Dilrukshi Premaratna.
The Democratic Tamil National Alliance, with the support of the Lanka Tamilaru Katchi, the Samagijana Balavegya, the All Ceylon Tamil Congress and the Democratic National Alliance, established power in the Vaunia Municipal Council.
The election for the mayor and deputy mayor of the Vaunia Municipal Council took place this morning at the council premises, presided over by the Commissioner of Local Government for the Northern Province. For the mayoral election in the 21-member Vaunia Municipal Council, Sundaralingam Kandipan was nominated representing the Democratic Tamil National Alliance and Sivathosi Sivasankar representing the National People's Power. In a subsequent open ballot, Sundaralingam Kandipan of the Democratic Tamil National Alliance was elected mayor, securing 11 votes. The Ilange Tamil Arsu Katchi, Samgijan Balavega, All Ceylon Tamil Congress and the Democratic National Alliance voted in favour of the candidate representing the Democratic Tamil National Alliance. Accordingly, Parameswaram Karadiban of the Democratic National Alliance was also elected as deputy mayor. Sivathosi Sivasankar representing the National People's Power only secured 10 votes.
I am ready to provide all services of this city to the people. I wish to serve for the people. Therefore, the people of my city can meet me at any time, anywhere, and can always talk to me about their needs.
News First with the people.
Welcome back to the news. The International Monetary Fund has commended Sri Lanka for its remarkable economic recovery just 2 years after the country faced one of the worst financial crises in its history. IMF First Deputy Managing Director Dr. Geeta Gopinath highlighted the nation's progress while cautioning that sustained reforms are essential to avoid future setbacks. She was speaking exclusively to Newsfirst Zulfik Farzan in Colombo.
Coming to Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is in South Asia, and Sri Lanka is just now recovering slowly but gradually from an economic crisis. So how does the IMF evaluate the post-crisis era?
I mean, we see it as quite remarkable how much there has been a turnaround in the prospects for Sri Lanka. I mean, just 2 years ago, this was a country that was in deep crisis. There were shortages of all kinds of basic necessities, including fuel and medicine. And you had inflation of 70%, foreign exchange reserves were barely existent at that time, extremely low, huge amounts of distress for people. And in 2 years, a lot has changed. You're back to bringing growth, so growth is at 5% as opposed to negative growth rates for the last 2 years. Inflation is down from 70% to like negative 0.7%. Exchange reserves are being built up. The fiscal situation is much stronger than it was 2 years ago. So we should absolutely recognize that this turnaround is impressive. Now, what is important, of course, is to stay the course. Because while the crisis of the kind that was there in 2022 is certainly subsided and it's much more stability now, it's not the end of the road. There is a lot more that needs to be undertaken in terms of constant reforms in multiple areas to make sure that Sri Lanka never ends back in a crisis like that.
Early this morning, you were speaking at the Sri Lankan Recovery Conference, Debt and Governance. And one of the points that you touched on was, is this going to be the last program for Sri Lanka? So, as the first Deputy Managing Director, do you foresee Sri Lanka needing more financing support from the IMF beyond this current program?
What Sri Lanka will and will not need depends a lot on how Sri Lanka manages these next few years of reforms. I mean, that's important. Now, we have many countries that we lend money to, and it happens once and we don't go back to them again. In the case of Sri Lanka, we've had 16 previous programs, half of which have been incomplete. And I think we can all agree, I think the President is very clear, he wants to ensure that this is the last program for Sri Lanka. But to make that happen, there has to be a clear recognition of the changes that need to be made on fiscal policy. For example, these are difficult adjustments that need to happen, but tax revenues have to be increased. They have increased substantially over the last 2 years, but that process has to continue, widening the tax base, making sure spending is well targeted, improving governance, dealing with corruption. All of that will be important to make sure there's not a reversal back to pre-crisis patterns.
Speaking of pre-crisis patterns, now once the crisis came in and when policies were introduced to mitigate this crisis, The austerity measures, the burden of these austerity measures were felt by a large amount of people in the country. What are your thoughts to those people who are probably watching this interview right now? What are your thoughts to those affected people, given that they had to carry this burden?
So I think first thing we should all recognize was that there was a major crisis 3 years ago, where you saw widespread shortages everywhere. Inflation reached 70%. The program has been critical to take the economy away from that very dark period of a crisis, so to bring inflation down. And what we do know is that inflation is very regressive. It affects poor people the most, who have to buy, if they can't buy their basic food. Now, we also recognize that some of the adjustments that the program requires moving away from the pre-crisis regime where you gave lots of subsidies, because that was part of the problem. So if you want to address the root cause of the problem, you have to address what issues, for example, like what's happening with electricity, right? So one of the pieces of the program is to have cost-effective pricing, which is cost recovery pricing for energy. That obviously transfers costs to some people. It makes electricity energy consumption more expensive. But I think it's important to recognize that that is a way of fixing a fundamental problem that existed before, which is what pushed the country into a major crisis. At the same time, a lot of focus has been put on having progressive reforms, ensuring that it's not unfairly being borne by the vulnerable in society. I'll give you some examples. We put a floor on social spending. Now, before the program, 0.3% of GDP was on social spending. We raised that to 0.7%. So it's more than doubling the amount that needs to go to help vulnerable in society. And now for the first year, that is actually being met. And if that continues to be met on an ongoing basis, I think people will start seeing some relief. Also, the tax base has to be widened. There are too few people who pay taxes. There are too many tax exemptions. Bringing more of the people so that they're more fairly treated is going to be important. And lastly, I think people in Sri Lanka want to regain trust in the government, want to believe that anti-corruption is possible, good governance is possible. And then at least they would feel, okay, then it's okay to pay your taxes because you know it's going to be well used. So that is a change that will not happen overnight, but there is commitment to it, and it is important for the government to continue to deliver on that.
IMF First Deputy Managing Director Dr. Geeta Gopinath participated in a special conference held in Colombo this morning. The conference, themed Restoring Sri Lanka's Economy, Debt and Governance, was jointly organized by the International Monetary Fund, the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The event was held under the patronage of President Anurukumara Dissanayaka.
මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලත් එක්ක විස්තීර්ණ ණය වැඩසටහන ආපු
We hope this will be Sri Lanka's final extended fund facility program with the IMF. Our aspiration is to build the kind of economic growth and stability that will allow us to repay our debts independently by 2028. When an economy collapses, national sovereignty and autonomy are compromised. Whether we like it or not, we have lost a degree of control over our own affairs. Therefore, the ultimate goal must be to reclaim our sovereignty and self-reliance as a nation. This requires a determined and unwavering effort. It is a mission that must be completed. As political leaders, we are committed to this task. As public officials, you have a responsibility, and as citizens, your support is vital. I count on all of you to help us achieve this.
Now, these are difficult measures. They test social fabric, but at the same time, they are the foundations for a more resilient future. This is why it's now important to look ahead. We have stability, but we need to now focus on inclusive growth and resilience, especially given the global environment. So there's really no room for policy errors. Sri Lanka has delivered. We're at this midpoint where we are in a good place. The reforms look strong, progress looks strong, but we also have to remind ourselves of the risks. So the IMF has had, with Sri Lanka, we've had 16 previous programs. About half of them have ended prematurely. And the reason that has happened is because reform fatigue sets in, the hard-won gains get reversed, and so I think we can all agree that the country cannot afford to repeat this cycle. It is critically important to sustain the reform momentum and to do so in a manner that's inclusive and accountable.
Sri Lanka has already proven that recovery is impossible. It's possible through sound policies, strong partnerships, and broad-based commitment. But still, we also take note of any unexpected external events like we see recently. And going forward, we never know what will be the external shocks that's coming to our way. To sustain this progress, it's imperative that we maintain our momentum and ensure inclusivity, transparency, and accountability in the reform efforts. The road ahead will demand a steadfast focus on sustaining the reform agenda, the empowerment of the private sector, protection of our most vulnerable communities, and above all, policy consistency in the same direction.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake met with the Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Geeta Gopinath, and the delegation this morning at the Presidential Secretariat. During the meeting, President Dissanayake raised concerns regarding the recently imposed US tariffs, noting their potential impact as approximately 25% of Sri Lanka's total exports are directed to the United States. The President further highlighted the challenges posed by ongoing global conflicts and their potential implications for Sri Lanka. However, he mentioned to the delegation that appropriate measures are being taken to manage and mitigate these risks effectively. Geeta Gopinath commended the remarkable progress achieved over the past 2 years from a state of severe crisis to renewed growth and falling inflation. She also praised the strides made in governance reforms and emphasized the importance of sustaining and deepening these efforts.
If we don't get growth to 4.5%, 5% instead of the base case of 3%, I'm afraid we will have to restructure our debt again in 3 to 4 years.
Who is responsible for the growth for the year 2024? Is it the Ranil Wickremesinghe administration or is it the Anurukumara Dissanayake administration?
There is a 60 billion rupees excess that the consumers has given to CB, which should not have been given.
This whole tariff methodology business has got well politicized, and the public has got themselves in a twist on this.
Long-term generation plan, if they were formulated in a proper way about 20 years back, nowadays we could have absorbed less expensive indigenous resources like solar in large quantity.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
Across the nation, talents and dreams are ready to shine. Introducing new faces and extraordinary performances from every corner. We proudly present some of the finest rising stars.
Stuffy Cloud Season 2!
June 7th onwards, every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. only on Shakti TV.
Bringing to you the latest developments from the ongoing Iran and Israel conflict. Iranian missiles struck Tel Aviv and the port of city of Haifa in Israel before dawn today, killing at least 8 people and destroying homes, prompting Israel's defense minister to warn that Tehran residents would, quote-unquote, pay the price and soon.
In a developing story, state-owned Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting building was struck in an Israeli attack earlier today, cutting live coverage immediately. The blast occurred as the presenter was live on TV lambasting Israel before she was seen leaving the live broadcast. For a greater coverage on the tensions between Iran and Israel, we are now joined by Newsfirst Budbin Amra Divakara from Newsfirst Studio 2.
So what's the latest situation between Iran and Israel? The deadly conflict between Israel and Iran entered its 4th day, with both sides widening their attacks overnight. Iran struck an Israeli oil refinery and damaged part of their power grid. And in Israel, explosions were seen where residential buildings were hit. According to reports, in Israel, more than 20 people have been killed, and in Iran, more than 220 people have lost their lives because of this deadly conflict between the two countries. On the other hand, Iran has told mediators, Qatar and Oman, that it is not open to negotiating a ceasefire while it is under Israeli attack, as the two foes launched fresh attacks and raised fears of a wider conflict. Officials say Iran made clear that it will not negotiate while under attack. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says he hopes an agreement can be reached between Israel and Iran. He made these remarks to the media before he was heading to the G7 summit in Canada. Trump also reiterated his support for Israel. So what has happened in Iran during the last 24 hours? Let's have a look.
Israel and Iran launched strikes against each other for a third day on Sunday, with both countries vowing to continue responding to attacks. On Sunday evening, there were explosions in the sky above Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as Israel's defense system shot down missiles fired from Iran. In overnight strikes on Saturday, 10 people, including 2 children, were killed and more than 100 injured in Israel, according to authorities. Israel said its strikes had hit dozens of targets in Tehran. Iranian media, quoting the health ministry, said 224 Iranians had been killed and 1,277 injured as of Sunday evening. Israel initially launched an attack on Iranian nuclear infrastructure and other targets on Friday. Iran later confirmed the head of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps intelligence unit, Mohammad Kazemi, had been killed alongside a deputy and another commander.
What we saw just now was what happened in Iran, but what happened in Israel during the last 24 hours. Bringing you more details, Iran launched missile attacks on several locations in Israel early this morning, killing at least 5 people. In that sort of a background, Israel claimed in the 4th day of the conflict that it had now achieved aerial superiority over Tehran and could fly over the Iranian capital without facing major threats. So let's have a look about what happened in Israel during the last 24 hours.
Drone alerts have been issued for the Beit Shahan area and the Golan Heights in Israel. This follows the Israeli Air Force's identification of a suspicious aerial target within Israeli airspace. The IAF also announced that drones are being monitored nationwide. Foreign media reported that explosion sounds continue to be heard from many locations in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and Haifa in Israel. Currently, the number of people killed in Israel due to the Iranian attacks is 24. The number of injured is over 300. However, Israeli military chief Eyal Samir has pledged to escalate attacks against Iran, which he considers a threat to Israel's existence. Meanwhile, the American embassy in Tel Aviv, Israel, is being closed. This closure follows Iranian attacks close to the embassy that caused some light damage. The US also said that the main American embassy branch in Jerusalem will be closed. The US reported that no American officials were injured. Israel's low-cost airline, has announced the cancellation of all flights to and from Tel Aviv until the 30th of June. This decision comes as the country's airspace remains closed indefinitely.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has called an emergency meeting regarding Israeli attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. UN nuclear watchdog Rafael Grossi provided an update on Monday on the situation at Iran's nuclear facilities after Israel launched military strikes and said there was no sign of further damage at Natanz or Fordo enrichment sites.
For the second time in 3 years, we are witnessing a dramatic conflict between 2 IAEA member states, in which nuclear installations are coming under fire and nuclear safety is being compromised. The IAEA, just as has been the case with the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine, will not stand idly during this conflict. We can and will act within our statutory mandate to assist in preventing a nuclear accident that could result in unpredictable radiological consequences.
What is the current response from the international community regarding this escalation?
Hamas has announced its support for Iran. The organization said it is working closely with the Iranian leadership and the Iranian people. India has taken steps to evacuate students from Iran due to the unrest. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs said that the Indian embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the security situation and is working to ensure the safety of Indian students in Iran.
So at this moment, there's a discussion whether we will see an increase in the oil prices from all around the world. So what is the current situation? What will happen to the Sri Lankans and to all other communities living in those countries? Will we see an escalation? Will we see more destruction? Or will we see more negotiations? We'll have to wait and see about what will happen between the two countries, Iran and Israel, during the next 24 hours. So let's wait and see.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.